Who am I meeting today? None other than Ben Francis, the founder of Gymshark.
I built a website that would sell number plates or registrations for cars and vehicles online. That was the first thing that I ever did. I taught myself to make iPhone apps, so I made 4 iPhone apps. The big driving factor was just a desire to be involved in fitness. Tried and failed until I'd actually built a complete app. It was just that feeling of building something and completing it that was really important. You know, Gymshark, it was the UK's fastest growing business, and it took months to get our first sale. But you know, if after 2 weeks I'd have just sort of cancelled it and forgotten about it, then we wouldn't be where we are today. You know, it wasn't better than what else was out there, so I think that's why it took a bit of time. We couldn't get people to the website.
Was there a moment where you did think this isn't working?
I could have sort of fallen over on the first hurdle, you know, gone and got funding and done it the conventional way. But the lack of funding actually taught me to think creatively and outside the box. I'm a firm believer that you have to make sure that you've got a brilliant business. You have to creatively try and solve all the problems.
So here we are, the big reveal. Who am I meeting today? None other than Ben Francis, the founder of Gymshark. Ben, welcome.
Well, good. It's good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for having us at this amazing HQ you've got here. We were just in the lifting club and the trainers down there said, come down afterwards and work out. We're like, okay, we will. But it looks unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Honestly, the lifting clubs changed this place because it's just brilliant because you can sort of jump into the lifting club and go into the gym at lunch, after work. After work on Mondays and Fridays, it's an amazing place to be.
We also had some free breakfast on you this morning too.
In your refuel.
It was amazing. Yeah. So and everybody's so friendly. It's such a nice vibe. You built a real nice culture here.
Thank you. It's honestly, it's the thing we're most proud of, and I love it because when people get to walk through the doors here, you can really feel the buzz, and it's something that's really important to us.
I think building culture is one of those things it's really hard, tangible. It's not an easy thing to explain in a PowerPoint how you're going to build a company, right? But it really, you really feel it when you're here. So for those that are listening, they should just kind of gate crash and come and check it out. But it's really amazing. I guess today I wanted to talk a little bit about side hustles.
Yes.
And a lot of people on our channel are always asking, and on TikTok are always asking about how do I start a side hustle? And sometimes they talk about how they need money and they need this. I thought there would be no better person on the planet to talk about your early side hustles. Yes. And I know Gymshark was a side hustle that's turned into this incredible business.
Absolutely.
But maybe talk about some of your other side hustles and the mindset at the time back then.
So I mean, as a young kid, I would just, my granddad had a business where we would line furnaces. So I would sort of mess around and help him a little bit here and there. The first thing that I really went out and did, I guess on my own, I worked closely with 2 of my close friends, a guy called Colin and Elliot. I built a website that would sell number plates or registrations for cars and vehicles online. That was the first thing that I ever did. After that, fitness apps, I taught myself to make iPhone apps. So I made 4 iPhone apps, I think a handful of websites. So yeah, Gymshark was also a side hustle. It was this 6th or 7th website that I'd made, I think. So I just sort of pursued what I really enjoyed. So fitness was the thing for me. So I made a fitness social network, a fitness forum, a fitness app, obviously Gymshark. So I just used side hustles to pursue what I loved.
And these early side hustles that you built, I mean, people listening, you know, they dream of doing it. So was it just a question of you went on a course to learn programming and then sat down and made something? Or was it some inspiration? How did it come about? So the thing for me, the big driving factor was just a desire to be involved in fitness. Now, on the side, I did IT. I did a BTEC in IT in 6th form. So I think you do 6th form at 16, 17 years old, I think it is. So I had a basic understanding of how to build things from that. Now, outside of that, I just went on YouTube. And I think, you know, YouTube's such an incredible resource. And I spent a lot of time learning how to build things through social. And then basically just sat there and plugged away and, you know, tried and failed until I'd actually built a complete app, put it out on the App Store. And I mean, listen, it didn't set the world alight. It wasn't incredible. But for me, it was just that feeling of building something and completing it that was really important. I think this is a really important point as well you're mentioning there. People think things take off from day one, and that's how you know it's the right thing, right? So it's persistence, isn't it, you're talking about
persistence there? I mean, the best example of that would be, you know, Gymshark. It was the UK's fastest growing business, and it took months to get our first sale. But, you know, if after 2 weeks I'd have just sort of cancelled it and forgotten about it, then we wouldn't be where we are today. So, yeah, things don't always happen overnight. And there's that quote, isn't there, you hear everywhere, like an overnight success actually takes years, which is completely true. It takes years and years of effort. It takes many, many failures. And I think it's a good job that you're talking about this because, one, it's not talked about enough. And it's because, you know, to hit the headlines, it's not 5 websites failed. It's the one that did incredibly well. And the more people that I speak to that are great leaders, great business people, great entrepreneurs, have so many failures beforehand. And the thing that I really admire about them is their ability to remain optimistic throughout all of those failures. And I think it's great that you're talking about it because it's not spoken about enough.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that failure is the reason I'm successful. I mean, and I think that's so key. But people do want instant successes. But 4 months, I can't believe it because the product. I've just bought some Gymshark stuff myself.
Thank you.
And it's awesome. So why was it 4 months? Was it just trial and error on the social side?
Yeah, it was. So Gymshark specifically, I just wanted to be involved in fitness. And as an aside, because I'd made a social network, forum, apps, I wanted to make a website that would transact. So I put supplements on the website, and it was a case of, for me, the finished product was a website that would transact supplements. Now, we drop ship those supplements because we couldn't afford to buy the stock in. And I think we just, you know, it wasn't better than what else was out there. So I think that's why it took a bit of time. We couldn't get people to the website. We started to use Facebook and social medias to try and drive traffic to the website. I think the reason we didn't get sales is just because people weren't accessing the website, essentially.
Was there a moment where you did think this isn't working?
Oh, God, yes, many. So obviously in the very beginning, now I just want to also start by saying at the start, there was times where I thought this isn't working, but that wasn't like a concern. It was a case of, oh, this also isn't working, just like all the things previously. But I'd sort of set my bar relatively low. So I go back to my initial reason for sort of getting involved in the apps and the websites was, I want to be involved in fitness. So even a bad app or a bad website gets me involved in fitness. So once I'd done that, I was like, okay, brilliant. I'm involved in fitness. This is amazing. Right, now I want a website that's going to transact. Finish the website that was going to transact. And then, you know, my bar was just raised very slightly. And then once the website transacted, it was a case of let's get a sale, manage to get a sale. And then it was let's get consistent sales. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wow, no one's making the clothes that we want to wear. So work hard at Pizza Hut, save money to buy a screen printer and a sewing machine, learn how to make clothing. I always set the bar very, very low. But, you know, it was sort of incremental improvement and it was progressing what we were doing.
I actually think you don't hear that enough either, set the bar low. I mean, you always hear like aim for the sky and, you know, think big and all these great Instagram quotes, but actually setting the bar low is pretty interesting as a model.
Well, it is. And it's like, so people ask me today, it's a case of, did you think or did you ever set out to create a global brand? Like, no, 18-year-old Ben didn't sit there and go, I want to create a global brand. Ben said, I want to be involved in fitness. I want a website that will transact. I want to learn how to make a tank. I want to sell a tank. I want to sell a product. I want to regularly sell a product. I want to do an event. And then all of these things slowly over years and years and years add up to everything that you see today.
This is called compounding. I mean, in the investment world, they use this a lot, right? It's compounding brand building. I guess I know a lot of people listening still like they look at you, this kind of, you built a company from 0 to $1 billion and, you know, you've done this incredible thing. The thing I find, and I've watched all your stuff in the last few days, I've got overdosed on Ben and it's inspired me, but there's an energy about you, this hunger that you have that is both authentic but relentless. And people listening, how do they get that hunger? How did you get that hunger at such a young age?
I don't know, if I'm honest. I think I'm really fortunate now because I'm surrounded by amazing people. So and by the way, like you said, you got the bug, you felt the culture as you walk in the door. There's so many great people here that now, because I'm in that place, I've got that momentum, it's quite easy to do. At the start, again, I think the hunger is maintained through, again, setting the bar low, having achievable goals. And it's almost like every time you achieve one of those goals, you get that sort of dopamine hit. Do you know what I mean? It feels great. I think that's probably the best way of doing it. And that's not to say I didn't have huge, ambitious goals down the line. They were almost like the dream, and it was somewhere like in the back of my mind, but I was really focused on every day, take each day as it comes, focus on my dream of, really being involved in fitness and giving other people the same opportunities that I had. So the reason, by the way, I'm into fitness is because it completely changed my life. In joining the gym, my school life got better. Everything I did here got better. And I'm driven by giving as many other people that experience as possible.
Were your parents entrepreneurial? Is that?
Yeah. So my dad worked locally in like a networks company. My mum worked in the NHS. So they weren't entrepreneurial as such. Both of my grandparents on my dad's side ran a taxi company. On my mum's side ran the furnace company. So I was definitely exposed to, I guess, entrepreneurship from a young age. Actually, I would grow up and my nan's father, so my great-grandfather, they would tell stories about in Birmingham, he owned like a shop that sold sort of, I think it was like tellies and stuff, and he would sort of put a telly at the front of the shop and put like the Villa or Blues games on so that people, passers-by, could watch them. And, those sorts of stories growing up definitely had an impact on me. Work experience with my granddad as well definitely had an impact on me. But yeah, both of my parents are just ridiculously hardworking.
They must be very proud of you.
I think they are, yeah.
Yeah, we have to ask them sometime.
Yeah.
I think, how can they not be? It's so incredible what you've done. Do you think a lot of young people that we talk to in our network are talking about how they need money to start a business. You know, that's almost like the first port of call. And I've watched some of your interviews where you talked about how you managed to save up £15,000 to do the event that you did that kind of maybe helped Gymshark become what it's become today. But what about that point? Do you think did money ever stop you? Do you think money? How do you get over that I need money to start a business hurdle that people have?
So I think it depends on the business. So if you're, I don't know, in certain businesses, you won't need masses of funds, right? If you want to do something crazy in tech or sciences, then I can completely understand why you would need funds. And then at that point, you as yourself need to orient yourself in a completely different way, right? So if I need funding for my business, and it's not like a right or wrong way, right? We didn't need funding and we didn't want funding. So I oriented myself in a way that was completely consumer focused, product focused, and brand focused. And however, if I was going the other way and I needed a business where I did need support and I did need funding, then I'd orient myself very much consumer focused, but I would have had to learn a different set of skills than I had to learn. So I'd have to learn to truly sell into more finance focused people or investors. And that's a skill I've only more recently learned, by the way. So I don't think there's a right and a wrong. I do think there's more opportunities to start businesses without needing huge amounts of money than people think. There were definitely periods where I thought, I'll give you an example. Back in the early days, we started using Google Ads, and it was a bit expensive for us, but it was good, right? And I remember thinking, if only we had a bit more money, we could do something cool here. And I just thought, no, we don't have that money, so I need to think of another way of doing it. Now, at the time, Google Shopping was free, and I found out that if you named a product in the back end of the website, the keyword that you wanted to get to, then it would go straight to the top of Google Shopping, and it would be like almost like a backdoor route of getting to the top of Google. I could have sort of fallen over on the first hurdle, gone and got funding and done it the conventional way. But the lack of funding actually taught me to think creatively and outside the box. And it gave me a solution that was, better than the typical way. So, like I said, I think it varies on the business, but I do think there are more ways to think creatively than people ordinarily think.
I actually think 9 out of 10 businesses don't need money at the beginning. Certainly the first 10 steps of telling people your idea and all of that sort of stuff, you can get it quite far down the line without money. And I think what you're mentioning here is such a critical point, that there is always this belief that money's going to make the business do better. But actually, it's showing, of course, innovators' dilemma, right? This whole point that sometimes people who have a lot of money don't innovate. They get stuck.
Yeah.
And without that crux, money.
What you got to remember is money and funding will only exaggerate what already exists. So if you've got a poor business, you can put hundreds of millions at it, but it's not going to make any difference. It's just going to, further what already exists. So I'm a firm believer that you have to make sure that you've got a brilliant, brilliant business. You have to creatively try and solve all the problems. Only at that point, if you truly, truly then need funding, then I think you should go for it.
True. Yeah, well, look, I mean, we're going to have you on the TikTok live event soon, and I know we already had lots of questions coming in about how to find a co-founder and all that, how to get the co-founder relationship right, how to raise money, which you mentioned you have now learned to do, and talk a little bit about things like trademarking and all of those sorts of things. We'll be talking about in the TikTok live event coming up. So we'll wrap this up, but thank you for sharing your backstory and your knowledge as always.
Thank you.